Welcome to Angel Wing LLC. This is Sachin Karnik here. I'm here with Mr. Pratap Bhatt from Rochester, New York. We're continuing our contemplative recordings and talks, specifically on self-realization, self-mastery, personal transformation, all of these ideas that are connected together. Mr. Bhatt is, of course, quite proficient in Vedanta as well as the non-dualistic paths. And he's also familiar with many other approaches that connect with this overall idea of human upliftment. So along those lines, we're continuing our Q&A as well as some discussion, some dialogue between me and him, but it'll be mostly from his side, and I'll make some comments to kind of foster that dialogue. So to continue from last time, Pratapji, the question is about the desire for liberation. So today I want to focus on this. We talked about that a little bit last time, that we see an enormous amount of bondage, what we call, like in the Sanskrit language, we say bandhan. The Sanskrit word is bandhan. In translated, it's bondages of different kinds. So many are there. So first of all, what is bondage? Who is bound? So see these questions carefully. What is bondage? Who is bound? And then what is the state of being unbound? That state of being free from bondage. So can you elaborate on this? And I'll ask you further questions as we move along. Please go ahead.
Yeah, as I understand, the bondage to me is that we superimpose limitations on the reality that we are really of body and the mind. We make the reality as if it's a limited to my body and my mind, and as I see that, then I see others also in the same way. Now this is the bondage, like an artificial bondage. So it's very hard to live with that kind of thing, because reality is universal and you are now imposing a limitation. So there is always some kind of a lack that you feel every moment, so you are lacking something, nagging feeling of lacking in spite of money and power and all those things that one has, but it still feels something lacking, and the present moment is never enough or satisfactory or at peace. So out of that, the desire to be free from that bondage arises. That then one starts to get interested in it. And there are sometimes some people search starts with some critical events in their life or devastating events in their life, and all those things happen, and then person starts searching for this freedom that he may not know in the beginning. But this is the lack that I feel is the most important part of this search, that as I have known it, as I have experienced it.
Yes, so most human beings are in some sense of deficiency. The feeling of deficiency is there. I'm missing this, I'm missing this. There is a sense of being stuck in life, being bound in life, or going through same patterns, same cycles again and again, which causes suffering, which causes a tremendous amount of suffering. What we are trying to do in Angel Wing is to try to bring about increased awareness about that liberation process. If there is bondage, assuming that bondage is there, there's pain, suffering, difficulty, conflict, all that stuff, it's there, we can see it. Then to come out of that, we're encouraging each individual to awaken out of that, right? So can you speak to that awakening process? How does that happen exactly?
Exactly, that's what happened in my case and most other people that I know, that not really any critical or any devastating situations, but even then, there is something that tells us that I'm lacking something. And out of that, the desire arises too. Even if desire at that time may not be to be free from that, but to address this nagging lack arise. And another factor of that is that we have this infinite kind of a power to desire. We can desire anything, go to moon, this, that, all of that. But the body is limited in what it can do. So there is a conflict between the desire to do something and yet we cannot do. And that's another way to look at the bondage. And this bondage then leads the person by the grace, I call it a grace, that the person will come across something that someone or some book or something that rings a bell of truth for that person. And then the journey starts, and more and more and more. If you desire and the longing for the truth, that will take you where you need to be. In other words, you will recognize the books, you will recognize that person. Even if you don't understand, you will be interested. And that's how the journey to the freedom. Actually, it's the journey to the freedom from this bondage. Freedom in which there will be a peace, unperturbed peace. The peace that doesn't depend on anything, the happiness that doesn't depend on anything. Why? Because then the person realizes it's his or her nature is the happiness. Not that he is happy, but happiness is the person. That kind of.
Yes. So there is a spark that happens. The desire sparks to discover truth, to discover that which is, how can we say this? That which is beyond these bondages. But let's back up just for a moment. When we say bondages, it seems to me that one needs to recognize what is bondage. I mean, how can an individual desire freedom until and unless that individual clearly perceives the nature of bondage, the perception of limitation?
Yeah, because see, the way I see is that the person generally starts by seeking pleasures, okay, by depending on the object of money, the power, and the recognition, and I am wanted by other people. All those things are pursued by the individual in order to be happy. Because when you are happy, you don't complain it, right? When we are not happy, then we want to be happy. That tells us something about the happiness being of nature kind of thing. But this pursuits through the object and through the sense and mind and the senses and the bodies always are limited. Okay, the mind, body, sense, organs, everything is limited. And the object we pursue are also fleeting, changing, and all those things. So then a person realizes after doing all those pursuits, then finally that still I'm not happy, something is missing here.
Yes.
And he pursued even the religious thing, the meditation and all those things. But if the idea of pursuing that is only to get something, that also won't work. So then ultimately a realization happens, and the person now starts to recognize, anybody or everybody, every individual always gets something that is useful to him or her, but it's not recognized as such, that, oh, this is not my cup of tea, and then move on. But the time comes when this bondage is really, it's gripping that person. Then there's lots of interest and the recognition that, oh, this is what I want. everything that I needed came to me. I did not go and search anything. In so many strange ways that I came across all the people that helped me, starting with my first guru, Yogananji, is still my guru. He would hand over me to the other person that I needed. That person will hand over me to the other person that I needed, like that.
Yes. Yes.
So that's how the search starts.
Mm-hmm.
In the grace, I'm using grace because when something happens to me, I now recognize that this will help me versus it's not my cup of tea kind of thing. That's a very important thing.
Yes. Yes, that's.
I can give you an example, a short example that somebody had given me a book on the by Krishnamurti, commentaries on living.
Yeah.
How about 40 years ago? And then I opened the page and it said, oh my God, it's so hard to even understand the first chapter. So I put it away. For 10 years or so, it was on my cupboard, Then all of a sudden, when I was cleaning something, looking for some shirt or something like that, I don't remember. And all of a sudden, that book fell on me, from So when it fell on me and I read it, and now the very chapter blew up my mind totally. So now there was a recognition of the gem. It's call it the grace or whatever.
Yes, yes. It kind of struck you. It's like when the time is right, it strikes you.
Right, yeah. It strikes you. Exactly.
So most human beings who are within the realm of this relative world, what you said is true, that people are seeking pleasure, they're seeking power, position, prestige, all such things. And it goes on. And it goes on and on and on, and then a person dies at the end of it all, if they are still continuing in this way. But it may be very possible to see beyond all of that, that yes, those things are there, but they're quite limited and they bind the individual. Right? So
right. Yes, the objects.
Right? So they bind the individual. And
I would correct it in a way that I don't see that we can even blame the objects.
No.
When they bind, it's my fault that I am attached to the object. Doesn't tell me anything. All objects to me are neutral,
Yes.
So I get attached, to seek the happiness through the mind, body, senses, through that object.
Yes, exactly. Yes, that's true. It's people, places, things, objects, whatever it might be in the experience, and kind of really just going in that direction to go further and further. Usually what happens, there is a state of contradiction, the contradictory processes within, which I think people know. They talk about love-hate relationships. They like somebody but don't like somebody else. They're happy in one instant, unhappy in another instance. All of that contradiction. This is a word that is used quite often. That one part of the mind or some parts of the mind are contrary to other parts of the mind. They are in conflict with each other. They're contradictory to each other, as well as we are in contradiction to so many other people in this world. The diversity we spoke about, that you talked about last several recordings. So to recognize the contradiction is a big thing, right? So to be aware of the internal contradiction, can you say something about this?
Yes, the way I understand is that actually I learned from Krishnamurti this one, that our mind has all people as how I perceive them, including myself, how I perceive myself based on my conditioning, and other people also. So my mind at that time is so fragmented between me and not me. And I like some, I don't like some. All those things are also behind that thing. And that's where the real conflict happens. And that's exactly is never recognized as such. We don't think that we are dealing with the people outside. We are dealing with the people in relationship, particularly in closer relationship, even more, with only the images about the people that we take as a real. And this is the reason for our conflict.
Yes. So
it's a big reason for our conflict that's never examined.
Right, exactly.
Was unquestioned. And that's why so many contradictions are in the mind.
Yes.
Most contradictions are psychologically oriented, and has a more grip on us than the others.
So, yes. To come out of the contradiction, I mean, first of all, these contradictions are bondage itself. It's a type of stagnation. It's a type of being stuck. The mind is stuck within itself somehow.
Yeah.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
So we talk about awareness quite a bit, all the time. That's just used all the time. And there's also this big idea about awareness without choice.
Right.
Any awareness without any demand, and an awareness in which there is no fear or anxiety, where there is a state of mind where the mind is in a state of perception. There's just vision, seeing, watching, the clarity, seeing as is, that state of perception. So what do you want to say about this? That awareness without choice, let's start with that.
Awareness
without choice. Choiceless awareness, right?
Okay.
Choiceless awareness.
Without choice is that generally, when you recognize the awareness from our experience, it's always a choiceless.
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing that I've learned. The choiceless is just to put there to emphasize the choiceless nature of the awareness. Because awareness just only is to be aware of something that your sense organs tells you, okay, or falls on, comes across. So awareness in that sense is that which is aware of whatever it is. Whatever it is not important. To see that this is awareness that I am, because I see all of those things, and the seen things can never tell anything about them. And then I, as an awareness, if I choose something, then I am swayed away by the objects. Then it's not a choiceless awareness, right?
Right.
So how I would be swayed away? Because awareness acts through the mind, and the mind tells the object, and the object is considered, I like it or I dislike it. And depending on that, all my chase is always outside me.
Yes, exactly. So first of all, one needs to recognize that I am chasing something outside.
Yeah.
There's a recognition of this phenomena, of this fact.
Exactly, but it is instigated as if through the images I have. I always tell people that we seem to be attached to the object, but actually we are not, because we are only attached to our own ideas about what that thing will give me or person will give me for my sake. I'm attached in the sense that my likes and dislikes I'm attached to. I am not really attached to the object. I tell people that if you are really attached to the object, then you take care of the objects for their sake, not for your sake.
Right.
It's a big difference in understanding attachment itself also.
So, the word guru comes into play here, that people are familiar with this word guru. Gu and ru. Gu refers to this darkness, bondage, ignorance. Ru refers to light and awareness and enlightenment and whatnot. It seems to me that the choiceless awareness as a state of mind, a mind that moves into this state, where there is so much steady observation from different angles of what's going on in one's life, and other people's lives. It's just a pure watching, seeing things as they are. That perception, that vision, to me at least, that seems like that is an internal guru. That's an internal teacher. The teaching is right there.
Yes, it can really be a true teacher that we don't recognize, but only when I turn from these external pursuits, instigated by the internal reality, that I take it, that instead of that, I get more and more interested into the awareness, because without the awareness, I cannot have any experience. No experience is possible of the word. And as we see that the deep sleep, the word and the body and the mind and everything is gone. But awareness, I cannot say awareness is not there. So awareness is the most important thing to recognize. And that's where the choicelessness comes, because when there is an awareness, sustained awareness, all identification with the mind falls away. That's the beauty of being, we're told to witness. Now, witnessing, choicelessly witnessing, you are taking your stand already as awareness, not what arises in the awareness, but you are now looking at the awareness itself. And that awareness itself, being a choiceless in nature, it is free of the identification. At least, So that state of the mind arises, but awareness has no state, okay?
Right.
Awareness is permanent. In awareness, all these states arise.
Exactly. Awareness is not a state of mind. State of mind exists within awareness.
Right.
So different mental states, emotional states, experiential states are perceived. I mean, they're also perceived. But people say, I feel sad, I feel happy, I feel this. These are all states, emotional states and feeling states and cognitive states. These states, they come and go. They come and go at different times.
Right.
But they are arising and falling within awareness, within consciousness.
Actually, all our problems, all mankind's problems, are only perceived problems.
Right.
How you perceive a situation versus different people will perceive differently the same situation. So for all problems are perceived.
Yes, definitely. I mean, even the word problem, that word is used when there is the experience of what we call a problem. The meaning behind the word problem, the experience behind the word. The word is not the thing, so the word problem isn't the actual thing that it's referring to. It's referring to something that is going on in one's life that one says, okay, this is a problem, because of the uneasiness with it, of the difficulty that comes as a result of that. So even using the word problem or difficulty is indicative that one is in a certain state of mind, state of experience, I would even say, right? So, okay, so let's take it a bit further. When one is in a state of experience, it seems to me that if one is trying to just resonate with choiceless awareness, trying to just be alert, on guard, that the state of mind is perceived, and that state of mind can just settle down naturally, in that perception, when the person is perceiving the mind, perceiving a state of mind, they're not identifying with the state of mind. The mind is coming and going, the state is coming and going, but there is a vast openness through which one is perceiving.
Yeah, when we say that what one is perceiving, that who is this one that is perceiving?
Yes.
Because all perceiving is only awareness, presence. Awareness is the perceiving itself, experiencing itself. So the one that perceives is the mind-based I that we were talking about.
Yes, yes.
Identified person. It itself is a perceived.
Yes. Now let's talk about that for a moment. The mind-based I has memory, it has experience, it has accumulation of knowledge, and it is mechanical. I mean, there's a mechanistic aspect to it all.
Yeah.
Even to recognize that is a big thing. To recognize that the mind-based I has all kinds of memories, and our thinking is, a lot of it is just a response to memories. The memories are there, we're responding to our own memories and in our own backdrop and reliving different experiences. Because the memory is carrying experience, memory is holding experience. And memory is also holding the accumulation of knowledge. Knowledge is getting accumulated, of the known, as Krishnamurti would say, the known and the unknown, right? So the known is that knowledge of the known is accumulating within us, right?
Yeah, it is accumulated in the mind as the mind's content.
Okay, so and it is mechanistic, and I like that word because that seems to me that there is a biochemical process just going on. It's a mechanical, it's a neuropsychological process that is going on, that is giving us certain experience. So what I would like to ask you about this, because you've talked a lot about consciousness and awareness and the impersonal nature, the impersonal reality. When an individual is sitting with himself or herself and sees all of this mechanistic phenomena, sees that this is all mechanistic thing that is there. So that perception, usually what happens to people, they ask, what do I do next? Okay, so I see all this, now what? How would you answer that?
Yeah, but the thing is that the person who says that I see all those things, it's a self-identified entity that I, like individual. That
right.
Individual
right.
can think anything that it wants because it's a mind-based. That whole memory and content of the mind are available to that individual.
Yes.
To access the mind and say it,
Yes.
But it says only as a thought. So it is not a real reality. In other words, it's not consciousness itself. It's not awareness itself. It just identified this taken real. So that is very hard for the person unless he understands that when I witness or I look at my mind, it's not me that is really looking at. It's an awareness. I have to take my stand as awareness. Then only you will see that. Otherwise, this separation will continue and proliferate all the life.
Yes. Okay. So just to go slowly with this, just to be very clear, that when an individual is, let's say, becoming more aware of memories and knowledge and the mechanistic nature of the mind, let's just assume for a moment that there's more awareness of that. Okay, so that awareness is bringing that individual into some liberated state. Is that what would you agree that that's?
Yeah, I'm hinting at that. When this individual realizes and asks that who is this individual called Pratap or Sachin?
Yes.
Then if you really stay with that and examine it, then it will be realized that this individual itself is a mind-based thought only.
Yes, but
And seeing that,
yes,
that this I is taken real as a separate reality of myself. So I am not aware of awareness at all with that I. And when you see very clearly this I is born by identification, because anything that you say or speak is always from the mind.
yes,
Right? Always, all answers are from the mind. If the answers are not in the mind, then I will say, I don't know. But it's the mind. So since you know, it's all based on the mind, this identity is also from the mind.
yes.
So if you are creating
Yes.
Another reality, ignoring the awareness as a reality, then it will be hard to stay out of that and go and take your stand as awareness. But with this understanding only, then, my God, that's the big step forward to have some glimpses of truth just by seeing this truth or false as a false. I say always that the I is a false taken as a real. That's a problem. So when I know that, I don't have to get rid of I, because it has a function that I can work and use it to live with other people.
Yes, yes, exactly.
But the freedom is to see that separation that is really binding us.
Yes, yes, definitely, because we are conditioned. We are conditioned, but the conditioning is something that can be perceived, and there can be freedom from that conditioning.
From the conditioning, freedom from the conditioning to me is to see the freedom from this I, who is conditioned entity and doesn't even know that.
Doesn't even know that. Yes, exactly.
So that's where we need the freedom. Then this very conditioning in the mind will be only used when it is needed. And psychological part of the conditioning will be so incidental, just to talk about something, the background and all that. But the other parts of functionality will have a more meaning then.
Yes.
So that's how I see that you find this individual I and see what is the proof that it is a real.
Right, right, exactly. Because that I is changing also over time. It's not a fixed, consistent phenomena.
Right, it's always changing the more you acquire the knowledge and all those things.
Exactly.
Only that it changes in the sense of the mind-based content changes.
Yes.
That's why it changes. Yes. But the constant part is that it is taken as a real identity.
So would you say that when this awareness shines and dawns, when a person is just sitting very, very reflectively, very quietly, very meditatively, let's say,
right.
just in a state of observation and perception and being aware of the breath and being aware of the body and being aware of the mind and just awareness, right?
Yes.
That in such a state that the mind just really at some point just settles naturally.
Right.
So one of the points that really struck me when we were studying J. Krishnamurti's works, the distinction between a mind that is made silent versus a mind that naturally reaches a state of silence.
Right, he was big on that, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's a very, very interesting thing, because all the traditional meditation practices and prayers and rituals and process-oriented meditations and practices, I mean, they have a benefit in their own way. But what he was talking about is that there's a type of perception, a type of vision, a type of awareness or awareness itself that just naturally settles the mind down.
Yeah, that's what Krishnamurti always says, that medicine really begins when the meditator is gone.
When the meditator is gone.
Right?
Yes.
So this meditator tries all those things to sit in the meditation and watch and all those things. So
Yes.
that is what he refers to as that he's trying to make mind silent.
Yes.
Versus
exactly.
the other thing is that you simply recognize this I, the meditator, in other words, is reality. And when you recognize that, that will already make the mind quiet. Because now there is nobody that is manipulating the mind.
Okay. All right. So on that point, that's where self-mastery really kicks in. That's because the mastery that, the mastery we're talking about, as I'm listening to you and what's coming in my mind even now, is that once there is this natural silence and steadiness and, this clarity, then the mind can be activated, but that activity of the mind is really in resonance with that awareness and not in resonance with the individualized ego that was in ignorance. That's the difference.
Yes. Yeah.
Would you agree with that?
Yes, because now the mind is acting as a tool.
Yes, it's a tool, right?
Awareness.
So just as a masterful painter, let's have, as an analogy, if you have a big painting canvas and there's 100 different colors with different brushes and whatnot, the master painter can create the picture wonderfully, masterfully. A beautiful picture can be created freely. So similarly, one who is in a state of mastery, self-mastery, is possible when the mind is in resonance with pure consciousness and awareness. And then that consciousness and awareness masterfully works the magic that it has to work.
In other words, the canvas can be called in this analogy as this conscious awareness.
Yes.
Whereas all these pictures that are painted by presence of the consciousness only.
Yes, exactly. And
so their reality is the canvas.
Yes, and also the fact that we have to perform actions in life. Nobody can live without performing act. You cannot maintain the body, you cannot do anything. I mean, activity is always going on. The physiological activity, the brain activity, mind activity is going on.
Right.
But it really seems to me that the quality of that activity, it's something very special. It's the mind that has reached a new quality. In Krishnamurti's language, he has mentioned this in various places, that the mind takes on a new quality. So when I hear that, that sounds like to me that the mind has touched upon that awareness, consciousness, or the Atman or the Brahman or whatever you want to say, God, whatever you want to call it, it's touched upon something that is really, really untouched by the changing world.
Yeah.
I mean, the ground. I mean, even in the ending of Time Dialogues with Bohm, he talked about the ground. So that's the same thing that Advaita is talking about it as the Brahman. I mean, he's just using different language. Whatever it is, but it is a highly evolved state of the mind. The mind has evolved further, even though it is very silent. And I find that very interesting. Some thoughts on that? What do you say?
Yeah, as I understand, when this identified I, which is nothing but consciousness itself, that has superimposed these limitations of the body and the mind.
Yes.
By pursuing this, getting interested in pursuing who is this Pratap, then that a realization of that will come, that it's really consciousness. Taken only really is a problem. So that way the mind now is in the hands of this awareness, which is going to act through that mind, through that body, whatever doing is necessary.
Yes, yes.
Without the doership or any of those controllers.
Yes. Which would mean that the individual who is desirous, as you were saying in the beginning, has been sparked to realize these truths, would really need to allow for that to happen. It's an act of allowing the awareness to function.
Right.
Because it's always there. It's not like it's coming from outside somewhere. It's just there.
It's always there.
It's always there. I mean, it's not something that's
the most important aspect of realization, is that which is ever present.
Yes.
Always present, you know. Mind and body may not be there, but the awareness is always present. So that which is ever present, permanent, that only I can be, right? How can I be the things that are fleeting? The body, the mind, and all those things, the worldly things, objects, they come and they go.
Yes, exactly.
Even in our thoughts, they come in and go. And in reality, some form out of this existence called Sat appears.
Yes.
And then after a while, it disappears. So I have to be that which is permanently there. And our experience says that this is, awareness is a permanent in all other experience of mind.
Right, exactly.
Mind, experiences as thoughts. So all those thoughts, so that there is a permanent awareness that acts through the mind, and for the practical reason, it will say, by adding the object to this seeing, for example, and the subject to the seeing. Seeing being an awareness, just one example of seeing or hearing and all that is an example. That experience is ever present, awareness is ever present. Then only the mind's experience, for expression of that, we are expressing our experience with the help of the mind, while underneath this seeing going on relentlessly. Even when I say something, with the thought, when the thought arises, it takes a while,
Exactly.
But that underneath that awareness is always present.
And also, along these same lines, when a person examines objectively, clearly, the nature of pleasure and pain and the nature of dualistic experience,
right?
Whatever the dualistic experience is of any kind, it does. There are millions of examples of that. We won't go into all those, but there are endless examples of all dualistic experiences. The fact is that any experience that is dualistic, it is swinging back and forth. So it can be taken from one extreme to the other extreme. Pleasure can go to one extreme, then it will swing to the other extreme. Because there is no such thing as ever increasing pleasure. That's not possible. There's a climax point and then it just crashes from there. The same thing is true with actually all dualistic phenomena and experience, that they swing back and forth. There are times when we feel very happy and compassionate and loving, and then we may feel very angry also. Emotions swing back and forth. So it seems to me, as far as our conversation even today, that the swinging back and forth, the polarities, the dualities, the pairs of opposites, all of this is experience of this mind and the material world outside. But there is a great deal of entanglement within that, great deal of bondage. One is just lost in that.
Attachments.
We're lost, and then there is expansion of that bondage. There is expansion of the bondage itself. Person gets poured, it's like a quicksand, and they're drowning further and further into it.
Right.
Right. So
if we are not free of that, then it will keep you submerged in it.
Yes, it will keep us submerged. Now, interestingly, the perception of these fluctuations directly, first person experience, Sachin has to see his flux. It's not about judging others. I have to see it directly myself, because I'm the only one who can see my mind. I mean, maybe others, but they can see some indirectly, maybe something, but directly.
No, yeah, we have only access to this mind that we call us.
Exactly,
I mean,
exactly.
Others' minds are not, we don't have access to any other minds.
Exactly. So the only thing that I can really do is to recognize the dualistic experience and be open to the fact or open to the possibility of the non-dual that is beyond. What do you say about this?
Yeah, what I say is that if you look at our experience, then everything that we know is only in the mind. So we know the mind's content, we know, right?
Yes.
Now, if I know my mind, then I cannot be the mind.
Okay, so hold right there for a moment. If I know the mind, if I'm aware of what is in the content of the mind, so that means one is observing the mind.
Right, as objects.
As objects. See, most people don't know that, or they don't think of it that way. We think of objects only outside, physical objects outside.
Yeah.
But mental phenomena is also a type of object, but it's a subtle object, sukshma, like in the Sanskrit.
Yeah, it is subtle or gross, doesn't matter, but they are objects.
They're objects of perception. And if it is an object of perception, but interestingly, when we use the word mind, the mind is moving. So the mind has within it, or the mind itself is a movement. It is a moving process of thought. So because we're alive, so there is activity going on there. So when that movement of thought begins to stabilize, where the inner chattering and all that stuff, it just harmonizes, it just settles like a still pond. The mind is there, but it's not moving anymore. It's like the unmoved mind, right? A very steady, very stable, very, very clear, very meditative mind, like a meditative mind. So can you elaborate on that, on the perception that occurs in that? Do you see my question?
Can you just clarify a little?
So think of it this way, in simpler language. Usually there's a lot of disturbance. Mind is moving in different directions. But let's say mind gets very stable, very steady. Mind becomes very steady, very stable. Where it's not moving anymore. It's just still. So in that stillness, there is perception at that point. So that perception in the stillness is what can bring about this transformation from within. This is Krishnamurti's idea. This is what he's saying. He's saying basically that there is a state of stillness where there's no movement of thought. Thought is not moving anymore.
Right.
So meaning thoughts, emotions, all that stuff, it's not moving. The mind is not moving anymore. So only in that state of perception can there be a radical transformation in the thinking itself. And then the thinking will not be mechanistic. I'm just
the way I understand is that whenever the mind becomes quiet, it has to be quiet because there is no identification with it going on.
Okay, right. But now we're going further from there. So let's assume for a moment the mind has gotten to that point, that there is a quiet state of mind and very steady state of mind, all that. Then in that non-movement of the mind is not moving anymore, but one is very alive and very clear, let's say. Then there is a state of perception. The perception is going on, right? That perception brings about a radical change. That's what he says.
That is exactly what happens is when the mind is quiet, absolutely quiet, then you see that there is an absence of the objects.
Right.
Because you're saying
Exactly.
not moving, so no thoughts or nothing, right? So
Right.
in that, there is an absence of objects. So then it is only subject itself now shining.
Yes. Yes.
And that is the most important experience of realizing that I am the subject.
Yeah.
I'm subject awareness, okay?
Yes. 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 That's
Because now you see it, and you get the glimpse of that when the mind becomes quiet, okay? Then you see that oh, I am still there. In absence or in presence of object, I am there. Now, this is a clear opportunity to see when the mind is quiet with listening and all those things, then there is a subject. See, I am still present. Now, there is nothing that takes me away because there is a glimpse of truth that happened in absence of these thoughts and everything, the activities.
yes. Okay, so when there is this perception, is a radical transformation, a radical change, because it's interesting, because something very different is going on in the system at that point, within the mind, the brain, the psychological system. There is a transformation going on there. It's transforming out of its old mechanistic states. What do you say about this?
Yes, it is.
Right.
But
okay.
I would say it is truth that we see it as a glimpse of the truth.
Yes, yes,
in
exactly.
absence of all this movement of the mind.
Right. So,
but then when the movement starts coming, then that glimpse gets hidden out again.
Yes,
you know?
but this is the point Krishnamurti is making, that once that movement begins, after having this radical transformation, that movement of the mind, that thinking process, will no longer be mechanistic.
Right, that's what I was going to say. The way I have understood that Krishnamurti doesn't say explicitly, that when I see very clearly that this I itself is also a thought in the mind. And now that the movements of thoughts all ceased in that thing, so I see very clearly that. So that tells me that even when there are objects, for example, thoughts in other words, all the thoughts represent object. As we know, right? Our experience is that. The awareness tells us an object only by a thought.
Exactly.
So the object itself now is just a thought.
Sure.
That's the experience that I can now see it. Before, when I see something outside, an object, then I just immediately, there is never any attempt to see what is this object made up of. And that's why I take that thing as separate, the thoughts, yeah. I never see that the object is experienced only as a thought. So that's where this non-duality comes in. And then I see that object present. Even when the object is present, then also that object is a thought, which is nothing but the movement of the consciousness itself. We say mind is moving, but the mind, the consciousness is moving with the thoughts. It's a 1-0, and that's a radical change he's talking about.
Yes,
so
exactly.
That is very important to see that truth. He doesn't mention it, but it is the radical change after seeing that glimpse when the thoughts were absent. But now, with the thoughts and without the thoughts, same thing, same understanding can act and relieve you from all these things. And at the same time, make use of them as appropriate. So that's a radical change he's talking about.
Which is a living freedom. So now one is living freely in the diverse world without getting afflicted by duality.
Right.
Would you say?
Because then one has found out that there is no such thing as a duality. because all dual experiences are reduced to only a dual, non-dual.
Non-dual.
As I said, the thoughts are consciousness itself. So anything that you experience is nothing but the consciousness itself. So consciousness always experiences consciousness only. Awareness is always aware of itself.
Yes.
But the intelligence also of this awareness that has created this mind, so that you will store these separate objects and deal with those objects in a practical way, without the attachment, without that abusing, and all those things will stop. And then you will take care of those objects for the sake of the object. And that's a freedom. Now you're free.
Yes.
You're not bound by anything.
So
you're not bound even by the thoughts.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. So I'm going to read a couple of lines from Krishnamurti, and just to kind of enhance what we're saying here. He says, so we are concerned with, or what we're concerned with surely, to be aware of the whole process of the mind. It's very interesting. Like when I read this, the awareness of the whole process. He's in the wholeness always. So we are usually aware of some piece of the mind, something that is going on, but the whole entirety of the mind, to see every twist and turn from every angle, my God, that is a phenomenal level of meditation. Tremendous level of meditation, I would think.
But if you realize that you are this awareness, then from the point of view of awareness,
yes,
it's always aware. It doesn't.
Yes, but that's the difficulty.
Our individual eye can
yes.
not pay the attention.
See, it seems like to me that there is a transition between this fragmentary and limited type of, quote, awareness or perception, and moving from that limited vision to this total vision.
Awareness cannot be a fraction or anything. What it means is this: whenever there is an awareness of an object, for example, then that object is in the manifest state that you can deal and all that. But as soon as you are not conscious of any object, and I always give example of right now, the Manhattan, for example.
Right.
So Manhattan, for that particular mind, is in unmanifest state.
Yes.
That doesn't mean it just awareness is so powerful that as soon as you're aware, that particular thing is created instantly for that mind.
Yes. So
perceived and created.
So in actuality, any experience of the outside world is actually a creation from the awareness itself only, from the consciousness itself. But
perceived
by the perceived, right? So ignorance, or what we call avidya in the Vedanta, avidya, the ignorance, that is interesting because why should that even be there? Actually, if there is only consciousness, then the limitations of mind and all these the bondages are actually an illusion. That there's nothing bound actually.
Yeah.
Right. I mean that's what the non-dualistic Advaitic vision really is. That this is just an illusion. That Maya is an illusion.
Illusion meaning ignorance.
Illusion meaning it's not there actually. It seems like it's there, but it's not. There's actually nothing there except for the Brahman only. That's Advaita. Advaita is that there is the one that appears as the many through its own power. This is the
it appears as many like a painting on the.
Yes, it appears as many, this is the interesting part, that it appears as many through its own power. That power is used to create the mind-body complex in the differentiation. But it's like all the different waves, they all look different from each other, but they're not different from each other. They're all only the ocean, just in taking a different form, the dynamic form.
They are all dynamic forms.
This is the Advaita idea, actually, right? So if that's the case,
but it's our experience. It doesn't stop at the idea level.
Well, yes, but it needs to go into our experience. These things can become ideas, right? But that's where the difficulty comes about. People always are even asking J. Krishnamurti, how do you make that happen? The how and all that. And he hated that question. He said, don't ask how, because there's no path there. You're not, because when in that realization, there's no question of how, because there is no how of any kind. It's just the existence itself.
Yeah.
So, but nonetheless, even though Krishnamurti didn't talk about processes and methods, and he didn't consider himself as a teacher or a guru, he wrote so many books and he spoke constantly.
Yeah.
Which is indicative that he is a teacher. He is trying to teach something to others.
Definitely.
Obviously, otherwise, because it seems to me, if someone is truly in pure Advaita, they cannot talk even. They cannot breathe even. There cannot be even the body. There will not even be any body. There will not be any body, mind. There will not be even the instrument that creates the duality.
Well, it seemed like that, but the real thing is that upon the realization that you are this consciousness, then this consciousness takes hold of the body and the mind.
Yes, that's true.
And takes care of the way that it should act in the other.
Yes, and then it seems like it's a realization that the body, the mind, the intellect, and all of this mechanism is actually just another form of that same consciousness.
Yes, exactly. And when you see that, then all these appearances are beautiful things to enjoy.
Yes.
Diversity. They are diversity.
Yes. So if you remember, there was a Muktanand Baba in Ganeshpuri. It's the yoga meditation. So he wrote a book called Chit Shakti Vilasa. That is called the play of consciousness. That when you realize this fact, then consciousness is playing as these names and forms.
Yeah, when you realize, then you see this whole thing as a play of consciousness.
As a play of
consciousness. You realize.
Yes.
That's very important.
That's the most important. And the thing is, so that shift from bondage to realization, it is in reality, it is just a shift in perception.
Then the beautiful thing is that it becomes a play, in the sense that the best analogy that I can give is that if I am an actor and they want me to play in the drama, for example, then what happens is that I already know that it's going to be a drama. So whatever happens to this in the drama, it happens only to the role, but not me. Okay, I'm not the role. And then this role is given by the conditioning that one acquires based on the place and time in which the body is born. So that becomes your costume. That becomes all these external things. Underneath that, you are consciousness.
Yes.
So nothing is happened. You're not afraid of anything, including the dying of the body.
Yes.
In the drama, because you would never die. So that's the best thing after realization. That's why I keep saying and emphasizing that if you want to take this world as a drama, then you have to know that it is a drama first. Then you can play. If you don't know it's a drama, you cannot play drama.
Yes. That's right. So it is a realization of the play of the names and forms, the multitude of phenomena, the diverse phenomena that is going on. We step back from it and just see its flow. That's what it sounds like to me. What you're saying, you just perceive all its flow, and it's there's a steady perception of that flow, right? A steady perception.
Steady.
Steady. So the mind is remaining steady, whole. It's remaining very, very clear, and it is not agitated by the experiences that are coming to it. Like
Right.
the Gita, Sthita Prajna Sika Bhasha, what is Sthita Prajna? Mind is not in any which way disturbed by what is going on outside.
Right.
Even though one is acting in the relative world in the relative way,
Yeah.
but it is a liberated activity.
Liberated activity. Yes.
Okay. All right. So we can stop here. If you would like, would you like to make any more comments about bondage and freedom and any of this thing that we're saying before we end?
I think that we discussed enough about the bondage. So I really don't have anything more to add, unless if something that you can question,
Yes.
then we can try. But other than that, we explain the bondage.
Yes, pretty well, pretty well. So it's really about masterfully moving through the world without getting stuck inside, without trapped inside.
Yes.
And I think would you say that is what is self-mastery?
Because then you can move, because now your essential nature being happiness and peace that don't depend on anything of this world.
Yes.
That's the whole journey is.
Yes. So would you also say that life becomes it's a very simple life, that the need for more and more stimulation, more and more accumulation decreases substantially? Can you say something about that?
Very, very, very simple. Life becomes so simple that you will be amazed at how simple life becomes. Because there is nothing to gain, nothing to achieve. All those things that were bothering you, present moment as it is brought to you is enough in itself. That kind of a experience. And then the most important, the experience are this love, unconditional love.
Yes.
That this body and the mind now is in the state of this, not even the state, it's a nature is now, because it's beyond the mind, so there is no duality. So then that is unconditional love, which means that I am not different from you. That love means existences are not different.
Yes.
So
exactly.
it's one existence, and an unconditional love, and also universal intelligence. The same, which consciousness is just nothing, just only consciousness, but it is these experiences also.
Yes, which really makes for living a very joyful life, life that is filled with joy and gratitude, appreciation. And I would even say that those people who are religiously oriented, whether they're in any particular religious tradition, they can see the tradition in a new light. They can see it without the divisiveness.
Exactly. And this joyful life spreads also to others. It's not only joyful to this body and the mind.
Yes, exactly.
Because then my experience is that when I hear that somebody is very happy, I am so equally happy. When I hear that somebody is happy, I'm happy too.
Yes, exactly. That
kind of happiness.
Okay, very good. So we are at 9:10 p.m. So thank you, Mr. Pratap Bhatt, for such a wonderful dialogue and your insights on bondage and freedom. We will continue further along these lines to look at some additional questions that will perhaps look at the same truths from another angle, from some different angles. So we will continue this conversation further, and we will just continue to build upon it. A very, very interesting and a very nice one. So thank you very much.
So I equally thank you so much, for making me a part of this seva to the humanity.
That's what when Chetana KRIPALU started this was the idea that each person can grow and develop and share with each other. That's why we're making all these recordings and talking to a variety of different people as we move along this whole process, because there are extraordinary things to share. And the other thing is, it helps us. The more we talk about it,
Right.
it helps us more than anything else. And then our intention is that goodness will spread around also.
Very good.
Okay. Okay, good. So let me stop the recording here.